What you should take into a raid in Escape from Tarkov can be a tough decision for new players. In this video, I'll be sharing my recommendations for new PMCs that are unsure about what they should bring into raids, especially when they want to do one and have success. First off, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've unfortunately killed a new player who entered the factory on their first raid, armed with a 9mm pistol, they got their tri-zip on their back, they're hiding and moving slow through a corner, and then I just jump behind them and instantly kill them. Free tri-zip. Well, you shouldn't do that because it's going to take you a long time to build up to the point where you can buy a tri-zip, and since it's the best backpack in the game, you should save it for whenever you're certain you're going to have a higher probability of survival. For example, playing with your buddies when they're all wearing like heavy armor and carrying really good weapons. That would be a time where you would want to bring in your tri-zip. If you do lose it, it's not that big of a deal, just know it's sort of a waste if you take it in on your first match, and these are things that some people just don't know. Next, you're also going to need to know a little bit about how the basic medical system works in Escape from Tarkov. I'm not going to go into detail on how it impacts your character when you take the damage. I'm going to go into more detail on the items that you'll use to mitigate that damage. So, available at level 1, you have bandages, AI2s, and splints that can all be purchased from Prep Horde level 1. You shouldn't have to buy bandages or AI2s for the most part, but splints will be important until you get access to purchase your Grizzly medical bag. You won't be able to buy a Grizzly until you've reached level 4 Therapist or level 4 Peacekeeper, and that's going to take you a couple days to a couple weeks depending on how serious you are in the game. You can find Grizzlies throughout Tarkov in medical bags, and you can also find them periodically in the blue tin on the lumber yard inside of the lockers on Woods. The Grizzly can provide you with everything in the game medically minus painkillers. This might sound overpowered because it kinda is, but it does take a long time to complete any medical tasks with the Grizzly. The other smaller items and specific items like a splint will apply much faster. Painkillers will allow you to run normally throughout the world of Tarkov whenever you have a fractured arm, but will not fix the leg entirely. Your screen will still remain blurry and it will be hard for you to see because of the fracture. The only way to remove the blurriness on your screen is by fixing the fracture, even if your leg is blackened. Sadly, splints only have one use and will cost you 797 rubles each use. That might not sound like a lot, but if you're getting a lot of fractures, it really adds up. You can also buy them if you collect 3 lighters from the therapist, but that's a lot of wasted space while you're in raids. If you only have an alpha container, it might be wise to just leave raids immediately after the fracture occurs, because filling up your container with splints is going to cause you to have issues whenever you want to store rare loot when you die. With the alpha container, you're going to have limited space. You'll need to use the 4 slots for your keys whenever you're completing tasks, or if you want to use the factory key. I would always keep at least 1 set of painkillers too inside of your container at all times. If you have the money to spare, then also keep some splints on you, but you'll have to keep them in your inventory if you want to store anything that you collect. If you have an alpha container, then you're going to have a harder time until you get Peacekeeper level 4, which will give you access to buy the beta container, which will make your life a lot easier. Until then, you're going to have to spend some extra money on splints if you're completing tasks or carrying keys. I guess it's worth mentioning that you could just risk losing your Grizzly inside of a backpack, but that really isn't a good idea in my opinion. The IFAK, the CAR, and the Solowa are all able to provide you with healing on your limbs and also patches up bandaging. So whenever you take damage, you'll lose like an overall health bar on each limb and body part. That is what the AI2 can do as well, but the AI2 is unable to provide you with any bandaging, so you'll continue to bleed. That's why most people don't use the AI2 and the bandages in the game. They'll rather use IFAKs, CAR medical bags, and Solowas. Or Soluas. I actually don't know, you guys always give me shit for it, so you can let me know in the comment section below how to actually pronounce it. Solua or Solowa? Alright, so you're probably wondering, Deadly, this doesn't seem like the premise of the video. You're just kind of going through what the medical supplies do. I needed to explain what everything did for the next part of this video to make sense. what you should actually bring every single time in every single raid whenever you actually want to do a serious run or a geared run or any run that you're playing with your buddies or you actually want to survive. In Tarkov, there's really two core ways of playing this game. You can YOLO around and just not give a fuck whenever you get killed or die, especially really fun with hatchets or pistols or shotguns, or you have this other side where you're going in with P.A.K.As, Kivers, M4s, trying to survive, being covert, really going for that hardcore gameplay. So this is going to appeal to the more hardcore side of Tarkov, not to the more fast-paced, fun, action-oriented version of Tarkov, where painkillers are really all that you kind of need. I also wanted to mention that I made this video with level 1 traders in mind. There are some items that you will be able to purchase later on, but this is for somebody who is very new to the game. So if you're just jumping into Tarkov, this will work for you. The first item I bring in is always an IFAK, which is a personal tactical first aid kit. This will heal your limbs and it will also bandage you, and you won't need to bring in AI2s or bandages if you have this with you. So it completely eliminates that whole process, and you can use this as much as you want to bandage. The durability of the IFAK will only get used up whenever it's restoring limb damage. Just keep in mind, if you're taking a lot of limb damage, this can run out, but I personally only bring one of them per raid and I rarely have any problems. Sometimes I'll bring a second one in my container just to be safe, but more often than not, I only rely on this as my bandaging and restoring health. I put this in my pocket or chest rig and I bind it to key number 4. And remember, if you want to use any of the hotkeys, you need to put it in your chest rig or pockets, not in your backpack. You can buy an IFAK from Peacekeeper level 1 and it's $56, not too bad. You should have enough money right out the gate. Next, and this is probably one of my favorite items in the game currently, is 2 painkillers. I never do a raid without having 2 painkillers on me. One painkiller is bound to key 5, the second painkiller sits inside of my container. 2 painkillers are equal to 1 morphine. 1 painkiller will last 4 minutes, 1 morphine will last 8 minutes. So you're probably wondering why I choose painkillers over morphine. Well, morphine requires you to have level 3 therapist and it costs 8,250 rubles. 2 painkillers can be purchased from therapist level 1 and it only costs 1,300 rubles to get the same benefits. So most people don't rock morphine. And because they're not super expensive, if you're tight on space, you can throw the second set of painkillers in your chest rig or backpack if you don't want to fill up your container. The next item that I bring is a grizzly or splints for new players. If you don't have the space available to you to bring a grizzly, or if you don't have access to one yet, I would recommend that you bring 2 splints in with you instead. If you fracture more than 2 limbs in a raid and live, you should probably be running to the escape anyway, and you'll be high on medication on the painkillers that you brought in. You can bring in more splints, but I really wouldn't recommend more than 4. So you can bind splints to your hotbar as well, but I don't really bother because mid-fight, you'll be popping your painkillers to keep going anyway, but it's honestly probably better if you did. That is all the medical supplies that I'll ever bring into a raid. Incredibly geared or not, that is my setup every single time. You don't have to worry about any of the extra BS too. It's literally just IFAK, painkillers, grizzly if you had it, splints if you don't. The next item you're going to need to bring in is a chest rig if you're going to do a raid with something better than a pistol, keter, or shotgun. To be at your best, I recommend at least a chest rig. On the level 1 traders, you can buy an MBSS, but you can find an MBSS or better from the scavengers that you kill in your raids. When you're first starting out in Escape from Tarkov, you can buy a vest from 2 of the traders. You can buy a scav vest from Skier, which is really cheap, but it doesn't hold as much as a Blackrock, which can be purchased from Peacekeeper for 180 USD, which is a lot for a new player. So I really highly recommend that you go with the scav vest until you get a little bit more of an understanding on what you're doing, because you can find Blackrocks and AVS chest rigs on the scavengers that you kill very regularly. This also includes the P.A.K.A. armor that you can buy from Peacekeeper. You won't have a whole lot of USD income. If you can buy it and you want to spend that money, then I highly recommend that you do. But if you're strapped on cash and you're very new to the game, I wouldn't worry about it, because just like the chest rigs, you can find P.A.K.A.s very often on the scavengers that you kill as well. A very important thing to note about chest rigs when you're using weapons with 2-slot magazines is that you should never overfill your chest rig. For example, if you have an AK and all the slots are full in your chest rig, then the magazine in your gun will have no pouch to go to. It will be dropped on the ground when you reload. This can really suck if you're limited on ammo or you're using expensive magazines like 60 rounders. Always keep one mag slot open for reloads. In your scav vest, that means you'll have an IFAK on your first slot, a magazine in your second slot, nothing in your third slot, and painkillers in your fourth slot. You can also put the painkillers and IFAK in your pockets, but this was just an example. The next thing that you should always take is at least one stack of extra ammo for the weapon that you're using. Don't just fill up your magazines. You'll run out very quickly. For pistols, shotguns, and snipers, I take one stack of ammo with me. I sometimes keep it in my gamma container, but if you have an alpha container, you'll need to store it in your free slots. Just make sure it's not preventing a reload. For assault rifles, I typically bring at least 2 stacks of ammunition with me, sometimes even more. Now, the last item you should consider taking in with you is some sort of juice or water. Now, this is optional, but if you have a little bit of extra money, I highly recommend buying the pineapple juice from Prapor. You can also trade for water with 3 Snickers bars, but you really don't need to do that. Just get the pineapple juice. Now, the reason why you would want to do this is if you stay in a raid long enough, you can dehydrate and die. But something else will most likely kill you by the time that you get to that point. And if you're staying in a raid that long, you've probably looted some juice already. But the main reason why you should carry some sort of liquid on you, unless you have metabolism level 51, which if you're watching this video, you probably don't, is if you get shot in the stomach and your stomach reaches 0, you will start to lose hydration at a very quick rate. When the hydration reaches 0, you will die. So the water or the juice that you carry with you will help you mitigate that and stay in the raid longer, allowing you to escape. You can find food and water easily if you're searching most things on every single map. It's important to have that though before you're in a dire situation, so you can either bring it in and be prepared or try to find some. The last thing we're going to be talking about in this video is weapons. Now, this is going to be specifically for people who only have trader level 1s and are interested in buying weapons, not killing players and looting them. I'm not going to be including the trade up weapons because that's not really something that you can easily accomplish whenever you're new to the game. I just want to talk about weapons that you can get immediately for currencies that you have. You'll have 6 options available to purchase right out the gate at level 1 traders. You have the AKS from Prapor for 23,000 rubles, the TT from Prapor for 7,000 rubles, the Makarov from Prapor for 4,700 rubles, the MP133 shotgun for 24,000 rubles from Skier, the MP153 shotgun for 33,000 rubles on Skier, and the P226 for $274 from Peacekeeper. Well, the only trade up that I will mention, because I'm going to see comments on it, is the Keter, which requires 2 MP133 shotguns. So technically, you can buy a Keter for 48,000 rubles from Prapor. Let's start this discussion off with the P226 for 274 USD. This is an absolute ripoff. You're going to need as much money that you can gather for your IFAK medical, your chest rigs if you're going in that direction, and 180 USD for your P.A.K.A. vests. Buying a P.A.K.A. is way more cost effective than buying a P226. Not only is 9mm extremely weak in the current state of the game, other pistols like the Makarov and the Tokarev cost way less in comparison. A TT is a fraction of the cost of a P226, so you shouldn't even be thinking about buying this pistol unless you have a lot of money to spare, and later in the game you can put a rail on it to put an optic on top of it, which makes it kinda okay, but the damage is still terrible. So I would not waste your money on a P226 at all. Next, the MP133. It's seen some better days in the alpha. This thing was an absolute savage, and it can still kill people, but it's really inconsistent in the closed beta. I would never recommend buying one unless you're using them to trade up for the Ketters. So I would only use it if I had spares in my stash and I had nothing else available to me other than a Makarov, and that would be a difficult decision. I would sometimes just take the Makarov. The MP153 is one of the best factory guns in the game and is worth the investment. So I would consider buying this weapon if you're going to be farming the factory for weapons and armor, and also for money. Very good choice. The TT Tokarev is easily one of the best choices, or the best choice for the price. It hits extremely hard, it's very cheap and inexpensive. The only thing is you can only get the magazines from Marlboro cigarette trades, 3 Marlboro cigarette packs for 1 magazine. For new players, you'll see these Marlboros. I highly recommend that you take them for magazines. You'll most likely need to use this pistol a few times. You can also find scavengers with TTs to get magazines, and you can rarely buy them from Fence. People sell them there all the time. Whenever you first start the game, you'll only have 1 round available to you, but luckily enough, it's one of the best ones, FMJ 43. So use that until you get access to the LRN PC rounds later in the game. Not to mention that once you level up Skier, you can also get access to a threaded barrel and a suppressor. Next up is the Makarov, and it should only be used if you have no other option. Don't get me wrong, the Makarov is an outstanding weapon in Escape from Tarkov that can easily kill players and scavs, but it's much easier when you get access to the better ammo types later in the game. Right at the very beginning, you'll only get access to some of the lower tier ammo types, and if you're going to be spending money on a Makarov, you should probably just spend that money on a Tokarev. If you use the Makarov though, I would recommend using the 9BZT GZH ammunition until you get access to better rounds. The AKS isn't a bad option. It's not too expensive, but it does kick really hard, so just keep that in mind. You'll also need an extra magazine to do raids with and will require a chest rig. So for the factory, I would recommend that you use HP hollow point ammunition because of its extremely high damage output, but you won't be doing that well against armored targets. Use FMJ rounds or PS rounds as new PMCs. Better rounds can be purchased later on, but not at level 1. Lastly, like I mentioned, the trade up Ketter, which requires 2 MP133s. Now, this is a really good SMG and probably one of the more expensive options for you unless you do some factory runs and gather some MP133 shotguns and store them in your stash, because you're going to need to collect cigarettes to get the magazines, so you'll only have access to maybe 1 or 2 mags. And I would also recommend, if you're going with the Ketter, to use the 9BZT GZH ammunition. It's a well-balanced ammo type that you have available right at level 1 until you get SP7, SP8, and PPE GZH. That is all of your options for level 1 traders. I would recommend getting Prep War to level 2 as soon as possible. The tasks are not that hard and pretty easy to accomplish. It will give you access to the AK-74N, the PP19 Vityaz, and the ability to buy PSO optics for condensed milk, which are really easy to find. It will give you access to basically get a DMR sniper on the go. Level 2 Skier is also a great choice, but in the current state of the game, you're going to have to have a friend with 4 armor or find one yourself. You can get access to the Saiga, which is one of the best factory and CQB guns, and the SKS. And the SKS, it isn't really worth it right now, but it's fun to use every now and again. Level 2 Peacekeeper will give you access to the MP5, but that gun is really not worth the money investment at the moment. It's a fun gun, but the AK-74N is your best option until you get level 3 Peacekeeper for the M4. Now, to end the video, here are some of the loadouts that you can build with level 1 traders that follow all the recommendations for your starting loadouts here. On the low end, with just rocking a pistol with no chest rig, with a little bit of extra ammo. I also show you what it's kind of like to only have an alpha container using the Splints, and also what it's like using gamma or beta containers, so if you have something along those lines. and then also the highest of the high end that you can go, which also includes the P.A.C.A. which you can buy from level 1 Peacekeeper, and the Blackrock chest rig that you can buy at level 1 Peacekeeper. So as you can see, you got the meds, you got the painkillers, you have the ability to fix your splints, you have access to decent weapons at the start, you know what ammunition you need to use, and you know how to set up your chest rigs. You also get a better understanding on how the medical systems work. So this is one hell of a video if you're a new fan to Escape from Tarkov, so I hope you enjoyed it and you found it useful. If you did, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Keep in mind, guys, this video is for the closed beta as of October 6th, 2017. Things will change. So if you're watching this video in the future and you're bitching out at me because things are wrong or changed, well, I can't predict the future. So just keep that in mind. This is an early access games and things will change. Well, guys, good luck on your Escape from Tarkov raids. My name is Deadly Slob. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.